This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signals Symposium 2023 in Nottingham, thanks to the support of AGD Systems, INRIX, Message Maker Displays, PTV Group, Simplify Systems, Smart Micro UK and TRL Software.
I think I'm going to touch on, through this, an awful lot of the things and the papers that have already come up yesterday and today in so many different ways. So if anybody wants to count how many papers I could have cross-referenced, please do. Should say, the project I'm going to talk about, we were a partner in it. We did a lot, all the modelling, or a lot of the modelling, design work. This is all based around a scheme that ran for Peterborough City Council and working alongside Milestone Infrastructure. So Peterborough in particular are faced with a challenge at the moment. It's a large modern city. It's got a 1970s road network, very high quality. It's got a lot of cycle facilities outside the city centre and covering a large area, moving around. It's fast growing, and by that I mean it's the fastest growing city in the UK. I think that's over the last 5 years. Okay, they are adding a huge amount of housing, of jobs, of some retail. Unfortunately, they've not been as successful with the retail, but they're trying to change that. One thing that is happening at the moment, and the second time they get mentioned today, Anglia Ruskin University have opened a new campus in Peterborough, effectively a new university for the city. And so that already opened, I think, about 2 years ago, and they are just starting on phase 2 of that now. So with this new university campus opening, and opening as a city campus right in the heart, in what's currently a very nice green space being built over to some people's objections, but to provide this very modern facility. But in doing so, and in putting this infrastructure into more or less into the city centre in an already congested region, they are very aware that they can't just have, particularly all the staff, suddenly driving to this new campus. At the same time, they do need to get them there because Peterborough it's an urban city, but it's surrounded by a rural area, small towns. There's not good bus routes. I know, I live in this area. There's not good bus services. There are very few train services. So most staff will be driving there from somewhere, but most of the students and many staff will be walking and cycling. So we need to get, or they need to get the right people to the right places, and what they want to do is do it in the right way, okay, not encouraging driving from the start. So they've taken the attitude of putting walking and cycling first, and several papers today already doing that, and that's nothing, I say nothing new. There's many, if not most authorities have that as a principle, a priority. So we need to consider that when we're looking at the local area and the development of the area. We need, first and foremost, to meet LTN 120. And when they put that to me, I said, oh, okay, no, that's fine, we can do that, that's easy. And then they said, no, the really good LTN 120, the gold plate standard one. Right, okay, that's a challenge. And then they said, that particular part of the city is actually one of the older parts. We don't have very good walking and cycling links already. We need to overcome those. We need to put better walking and cycling links into the existing city centre and to hook it up to all those really good quality routes that go around the more modern parts of it, around the outskirts. And we can't muck up. This is the main driving route into the city centre car parks. We can't muck that up either. So, what I should say, They do need to get the staff in. They've committed to building they have committed to building a 1,000 space multi-storey car park for the staff, just not on site. That's got to go somewhere else and then walk and cycle from that into the campus. So while we get the 120 compliance, while we get the really good walking and cycling links, we're not allowed to impact on the existing traffic. Oh, and by the way, there's an extra 1,000 cars at some point, and we need to accommodate them. So I got involved. They asked me to start looking at a few little elements of the network. I will say this is about half of the scheme that you see here. This is the same aerial view 3 times over, I think, obviously, but we've got other works, enabling works outside this, some of which is walking and cycling related, others are capacity related for traffic. On the left, we've picked out some of the, let's see whether I can do it from here. We've picked out some of the key points. We've got the cathedral over here, which is quite an important tourist area. The city centre retail is a little bit further west to that, but very, very close to it. To the north, we have residential areas, large residential areas, many, many, many people living there, and quite a high density of housing. We have, there we go, the parkway network, the urban dual carriageway network, or semi-urban dual carriageway network, elevated for its most part, running around the old city centre, but now it's sort of almost like an inner ring road to some extent, but no pedestrians, no cyclists, they run at ground level. The traffic is elevated, kept away, kept on dual carriageway, but the link to it comes into the north there. They proposed a multi-storey car park in place of an existing surface level one, and the campus itself down here, the first development and then the second development. So fundamentally, we need to get people from there to here, north-south. So the blue line on the second image, broadly speaking, shows the key walking and cycling, I won't say routes, because we're not into routes at the moment. We don't have a great deal of infrastructure in this part. But that is where we need to get people to and from. To the campus at the south, from the residential areas, and from the car park, and from a few other places on the way through, but they all neatly fall online as long as we can get the walking and cycling routes north-south through that route. And then just taking into consideration that we also, I'm not allowed to go and upset the people driving into the city centre car parks too much. We've got the main car driving routes laid over on the right-hand side with the yellow, I think in this case the yellow is that's the through traffic, more or less coming through for the city centre, accessing the parkway and going off into the residential areas. And then the red being more of the local traffic and picking up the car parking there. And sort of if you look at those, it's exactly the same as the places we need people to walk and cycle. They overlap. There's a huge amount of overlap. We can't just separate them off completely. So after we initially concluded that, well, this is clearly impossible, we did some modelling. We tried modelling roundabouts. They asked me to look at signal junction here, signal junction there. What could we do? In the end, they didn't give up. They said, right, take the land, take the boundary, see what you can do. We had a conversation about this. The senior transport planner, 1 or 2 other people, and myself, we had a conversation. We just said, right, we need to do this. Everything's up for grabs. This is the land we've got available. This is the car park where they're proposing to build their multi-storey. An existing roundabout that is already congested, has an accident problem, and has absolutely no walking and cycling facilities around it other than a few drop curbs. Take it, see what you can do, explore. Don't come up with anything, don't worry about coming up with a single scheme. See what we could do and what might work. And that is, ever so slightly paraphrasing, but that is exactly more or less what we set out to do. See what works. So, taking that away, thinking about it through, right, we don't know. We've now got this blank canvas. We've got a huge amount of space. We've got potentially a very large amount of money we're looking at for the highways works. I mean, this is a university, multi-storey car park, huge amount of highway works that are associated with this. From a transport planning point of view, they're looking, saying, well, we don't really know what will work. So we need to get into the detail and actually, to some extent, but not spend too long on it. So we came up with this idea, and to be perfectly honest, I think we do this informally all the time, and many people here probably do. We'll design through iteration, and we'll do rapid iteration. We'll come up with a sketch first. Broad sketch, may not be complete, may not show the entire area, maybe a sketch of part of it, or a really just rough outline of where we might put things. We'll have a default template Linsig model that has got all the flows in it, and then we can quickly throw arms, lanes, crossings onto that, hook them up with the zones, and rerun the model, either in part, just for parts of it. We're not going to submit this. We don't need to get it to a stage for approval. This is just rapid, dare I say, quick and dirty testing of sketches and ideas. If that shows promise, then we move on and we do an outline Linsig. We go an outline drawing, we revise the Linsig. We review it, we go through, we start looking to see whether it makes sense, and then we go to the client for liaison and feedback. Everybody likes a flow chart. Put in a flow chart, this is what it looks like with multiple loops back. But the key point with this is every single iteration is fast. We're looking at small elements and starting to build them together to see what works. And those are just some of, literally a few of the elements where we initially started off with the roundabout. So we looked at the roundabout, we looked at whether we could put crossings through the roundabout, whether that would work, whether we could do cut-throughs, hamburgers, sun and moons. Then what about staggered junction, crossroads junction, split it into multiple T-junctions? And then we start looking at, okay, what about a new junction for a car park access? No, that doesn't work, but some elements of promise. And eventually we started moving towards actually, I say building a new road, but moving away from certainly a roundabout, moving away from a single junction and actually developing the network out wider, better spacing, but all the time, it's not very clear on some of these, but all the time looking at where we bring cyclists and pedestrians through, not just as an afterthought, but actually sort of, right, we want them through there, we want lines through here. This is the top part of this route. This is where everything converges. So we need them through. We've got little notes on there in places picking this apart. We developed this up, took it to the client. This is more or less, I think, on the left, one of the iterations we took, discussed with the client, worked through with them, started talking through. I think it's labelled on there as toucans, but even then it's not really, we're not trying to indicate a toucan as such, we're just saying pedestrians and cyclists. And we're sort of saying, well, we think we'll cross them through here, we can make this work, we've built models that show that this is interesting and has promise. The little road on the left changed several times with its usage, one way, both ways, bus only, taxis, cycling only. And with some feedback from the client, we eventually came up with a workable concept. So before the light goes red, I'll run through. This is the concept we ended with, and I'll break it through just in part and then see it all together. So we did move the link, well, effectively we create a new road. We move the road to the edge of the available space. We move it away from being a single roundabout, a single junction. We separate out the conflicts, and we provide the car park access, which is now rapidly and easily available from the parkway, dual carriageway, more or less dual carriageway all the way into the car park, past, this is all wasteland industrial area, so we're not taking all that extra traffic past the past residential areas. We are implementing things like hold the left turn, because coming this way we don't expect many traffic. We do hold the left turn, and we get in, from the start, we get in really good cycle facilities, walking facilities, all built in, very low delay. We're doing similar at the top there. Let's see. So moving to the top westmost. We've got similar, we've got a small junction again in place of a big roundabout. We can see where that's gone. But we've got 3 crossings. Starts to look like a cyclops, but it's not, because these are walk with traffic crossings. It gives us capacity, but it massively reduces cycle delay and pedestrian delay. It links these schemes up really nicely. We've got hold the left turn again in there, as well as many other features that we looked at as we went. A small junction now down to the south, and this is where we bring the access down to the campus. Pedestrians and cyclists completely separated away from the traffic, making use where we have got space, keeping them away, bringing them into the junction, rapidly through, and then as far as possible, keeping them separate again. Traffic, overall, we ended up with the same spare capacity as the existing situation. We haven't ended up with more, but we have accommodated all that car park traffic. We are hoping that this will deal with some of the accident problems that are there, and the delay, again, is similar to existing. Very, very quickly, because I'm out of time, I don't want to keep anybody on a Friday afternoon. The design is still in progress. We have gone to full preliminary design, and we are looking at things at the moment. We've split pedestrian crossings to make them more user-friendly for pedestrians while maintaining straight across cycle crossings. We are making a lot of use of hold the left turn, being quite a useful feature, and we've designed for it so we've got the space to achieve that. In some places, though, this cycle crossing is likely to be removed because we can't actually make the onward crossing and cycle route good enough, and therefore we're treating the whole thing as a route. That's it. That's the entire job. It's no longer a roundabout. It's much more squarer than before. We're hoping to go to detailed design. However, there is a rumour that since the old gasworks and the derelict wasteland there that I mentioned has become available for sale, somebody may have sold the whole lot off for a supermarket. But politics and money are a different thing. I'll leave that because I think I'm out of time. But just to say, just to say in terms of whether this approach works anywhere else, we're already using it elsewhere and helping in other areas.
Well, thanks very much indeed, Chris. It's an interesting presentation where you understand the title at the end, and so that's interesting. Thank you. Any questions for Chris? One over here.
Mark?
Keeping you busy today, Sarah.
Mark Roxburgh, National Highways. It's quite an easy one, Chris. That crossing you said might get removed because of there's no downstream. Was there intention to at least retain the space to put in the future, so you design the junction and retain that possibility to be added in very easily?
I think it will, but the reason we're taking out is because it looks like there is no possibility, and the reason for it is there is a very large structure and they can't get headspace under it for cycling. So it's not a highways thing, it's a physical barrier, which means it's virtually impossible to ever achieve cycling through that, not without moving half of Peterborough.
Never say never.
Are there more questions? Well, I have one. I mean, a lot of this design is resulting from Anglia Ruskin have you had any discussions with them as to what incentives they're going to give to the staff to use the bus and the cycle? I mean, I was a bit uncomfortable about them building a multi-storey car park, because certainly in Newcastle, the university it was something they weren't allowed to do, but it's paid dividends because most of the staff come by public transport, by metro, bus or cycle. And they put a lot of effort into making it easier and cheaper to use those roads.
Yes. I've not been involved in that because I've been very much on the transport planning and design side of it. I'm aware that a lot of work did go into this, and this is slightly odd because it's a split responsibility between Anglia Ruskin, Peterborough City, who are developing the area alongside them, and also its central government funding to help achieve all this. However, and I was saying earlier, Peterborough itself has a very good bus service, as well as having very good cycling and walking links. The greater rural area around it, it's a unitary authority, and within their own authority area, they're very good, but the wider area and the fens and the villages do not have particularly good bus services. So the expectation is that the staff who live locally will find it easier already to take the bus and walk and cycle. Those who live a long way away might be practical to take the train, but that's a bit of an ask. It's got a station. But the staff who come from the wider area are largely coming from a rural, agricultural area, small villages, and very, very little in the way of public transport. And also, frankly, the roads on the way there are wholly unsuitable for cycling. And so hence why they understand the need in this case that they have got to accommodate car usage, because people will use them.
Okay, all right. Any questions? Okay, well, thanks very much again, Chris, and we'll now move on to our